Everybody, welcome back for a little Jays talk. Today we're going to be making our predictions for the AL East, how we think the teams are going to shape up. I'm not going to get into any, individual player projections or anything like that. I'm just going to strictly talk about where I see the teams finishing and try to give a little bit of justification on why I think that's the case. Be forewarned, I am a Blue Jays fan, so I'm more familiar with the Blue Jays system and roster than I am with some of the other teams, although I have a pretty good understanding of all the teams in the AL East because we see them so much and we, on Twitter and everything like that, we do keep up to date with our rivals. But I do have a bit of a bias towards the Blue Jays that I'll try to, keep under wraps in this video. So the first thing I'll pop up is the Fangraphs projected standings for the AL East. And the way they've got it pegged is a very, very tight race. You'll see here the Yankees 85.8 wins, Red Sox 84.5, Orioles 82.9, Blue Jays 82.6, and the Rays 81.6. And over to the side there, they have the making the playoffs percentages. And they've basically got, as I mentioned, the Yankees as the favorites, but everybody is close enough to a 50-50 that that's kind of where my head's at too. It's going to come down to some injury breaks. It's going to come down to who's riding a high going into the trade deadline and decides to push in versus who stands pat or who sells off. Like it's going to be split between a few games, I think, and it's just going to be a matter of who wants to be aggressive and who wants to be passive and build for the next year. And who gets the good luck and who gets the bad luck with the injury bugs, if I'm being honest. That's my kind of take on it. So I'll reveal my projections one by one. And first up, I've got the Boston Red Sox picked to win the division. Reason being, I'll pull up their lineup here. And they're pretty stacked offensively. Like you're looking at Jarren Duran, Rafael Devers, Alex Bregman, Tristan Cassis, Trevor Story, Christian Campbell, Wilyer Abreu, Connor Wong, Ceddanne Rafaela. Tremendous outfield defense, solid all the way through. We know they've got a good farm system. They've got a lot of young prospects on the rise. They've got a pretty strong bench as well. And then the main thing that I think will push them over the edge this year is their starting rotation. They've got Garrett Crochet as a true number one at the top, and I'm a big fan of Tanner Houck. He is nasty. The results haven't always been there, but he's filthy. He's like a right-handed Chris Sale. Walker Buehler, 3. Richard Fitz, we saw him a little bit in spring training, and he actually looks really nice. So I think they've got a good pitcher there too, and he's only 25. And then right now it's got Sean Newcomb penciled in as the number 5. I don't really know if that'll be the case or not. I haven't heard if he's officially made it. The bullpen looks solid. They've got, like I mentioned, some guys we saw in spring training. That Weissert came in against us. Bernardino's got a nice arm. Aroldis Chapman's a bit of a wild card at this point in time. He's 37, but he still throws gas. So that's enough to keep them in a good spot, I think. And then at the deadline, they can always try to acquire somebody for the back end of the bullpen, like most teams try to do. And then, of course, they've got Masataka Yoshida, who's going to be DHing. I don't think he'll touch a position anywhere. If anything, he'll lose his playing time to one of the prospects that comes up eventually. But he's a pretty good left-handed bat. And over on the pitching side in the injuries department, they're going to get some reinforcements later in the year. They've got Brian Bello, who's dealing with some shoulder soreness. I don't know how long he's projected to be out. Shoulder soreness is never really a good thing, especially in spring training. Cutter Crawford, same type of deal. Knee soreness, that's pretty vague for me. And Lucas Giolito, strained hamstring. So it doesn't sound like anything that's going to really, miss a season or anything like that. So that's where the Newcombs and the Fitz and that of their rotation are going to get pushed out fairly early on. And I think they've got enough to win the division just based on depth alone. That's my choice for number 1 in the AL East. Now we'll flip over to second place. For second place in the AL East, we're going to have the Baltimore Orioles. So the Orioles could go one of two ways. I could see them being an absolute train wreck because of their starting pitching, but their lineup is so good, and if they can just hang on long enough to the middle point of the year where they get guys like Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells and Trevor Rogers, Grayson Rodriguez, they start getting these pitching reinforcements back. Once everybody's back healthy, or even if they deal with 1 or 2 injuries in the meantime as they're getting these guys back, they do have enough, I think, to get them, into second place in the East and to string them through for a regular season. I don't know how they match up in the playoffs, just pitching wise versus some of the some of the more upper echelon teams, but they've definitely got a nice enough lineup and enough pitching depth that I think that they can for sure get there. On the batting side of things, they've got Cowser, Rutschman, Westberg, O'Hearn, O'Neill, Mountcastle, Mullins, Urias, and Jackson Holiday penciled in as their opening day starting 9. And you'll notice one thing, where's Gunnar Henderson? He's starting the year on the injured list. So that is a big blow for them. And if that turns into a more serious issue where he's maybe missing months instead of weeks, then my projections might start to change a bit. But they do have a fantastic lineup even without Gunnar Henderson, provided everybody does what they're supposed to do. And like I say, I think the pitching staff of Eflin, Morton, Kramer, Sugano, and Povich will be enough to get them through until some of their big horses start to come back from their Tommy John surgery like Kyle Bradish and the UCL surgery that Tyler Wells underwent. Grayson Rodriguez is only out with elbow inflammation. I don't know what that means, like in terms of how long he'll be out. He's been out since March 5th, it says. So if they get him back soon, and like I say, if they can just band-aid their way through to get Bradish and Wells, they're still a team to beat in the AL East, and I think they'll ultimately come in second place. Up third, this might be where my bias is showing, and it might be surprising to some viewers who are going, hey, where are the Yankees? I've got the Toronto Blue Jays in third place. If we look at their offensive lineup now, they've got Bichette, Guerrero Jr., Santander, Jimenez, Kirk, Springer, Rodin, Clement, and Lucas. And that doesn't stack up to me with the Baltimore Orioles, but it is enough, I think. There's some run producers there, and I think, we've seen this team make the playoffs with 89 wins in a year where they had a terrible offense, and I think they've definitely improved on that, and they've maintained very good defense and very good pitching. So I believe with the offensive influx of talent, mostly in Santander, but I also like the upside of Andres Jimenez. I think this is a team that can get up into third place and ultimately steal a wild card spot. Probably somewhere in the upper 80s if I had to guess in terms of wins this year. And I think that's doable. Now, could it go the other way? Of course it could. Like every team. Injuries happen, things like that. It could all fall apart. They could be sellers at the deadline for all we know. But I think as long as they have relatively good health and, guys like Bo Bichette bounce back the way that they should, there's no reason why this can't be a playoff team. Pitching staff-wise, Jose Barrios, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, Bowden Francis, Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer is going to be a real wild card here. If we can keep him healthy and get him to his, say, 20 starts, and he's giving 5 or 6 innings, I think he'll pitch to a mid-3 ERA. And if that's your number 5, I think that's fantastic. The question is going to be depth on the pitching staff for this team because we've got a good starting rotation. Hoffman, Green, Garcia, and then if we get Swanson back, there's a very solid bullpen there this year. It's just going to come down to if injuries start to come, where does the depth come from? That's a big question mark right now. I'm not sure if you can trust Jake Bloss. I'm not sure if you can trust Yariel Rodriguez. We have Lauer. I don't know how much you trust any of those guys pitching for you in a starting pitching role. I know a lot of fans are upset about Ryan Yarbrough not making the team as well, and I'm not that bothered by it. I think we got very good performance out of him last year, but I think we all also know that he's not a 2.1 ERA pitcher. That's not who he's been in his career, and I don't project him to be that moving forward. He's a very stable multi-innings guy, but it just shows that they want Yariel Rodriguez to remain stretched out, and he'll take that long reliever role. So there just wasn't really the need to carry Ryan Yarbrough, and I think they like Richard Lovelady's stuff a little bit better from the left-handed side. And you know what? He had a very solid year last year in the AL East with the Tampa Bay Rays, so I'm okay with it. It's not something I'm going to get too fired up with. The only real injury we're dealing with in the player side is Dalton Varsho, and we heard he's going to start on the IL, but it should only be a couple weeks. So I think once he comes back, he also provides some power and obviously his platinum glove defense in center field. So the fact that our one player is only missing probably a couple of weeks and probably getting a 4-win player back, if not more, that's a really solid sign for us. And then on the pitching side, Ryan Burr, Zach Pop, and Eric Swanson are all dealing with kind of minor injuries. Now that can really set back a bullpen arm. Like Swanson and Romano got hurt last year, and they were just never really able to get on track. So yeah, it's not ideal, but we should start getting these arms back within the first month of the season, and I think we have enough depth in the bullpen to tide us through until then. So that brings me to number 4. Drum roll, please. Who is not going to be in the basement of the AL East? The New York Yankees. So this one's probably going to get some pushback, and I can see why. They went to the World Series last year. Their offense last year was not good. They were really heavily buoyed by Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. And this is just strictly so. First of all, the pitching injuries won't help, obviously. But I'm basically making a small wager that Aaron Judge is going to start to regress. And I don't mean fall off a cliff or anything like that. I just mean regress. Like, he's 33 years old now. At some point in time in the near future, he is going to not be as good as what he's been. He has been like a robot the last 3 years. Just, tremendous home run totals, overall WAR value. He's been probably the most valuable player in baseball, him and Shohei Ohtani. And like I say, I just think he's 33 years old now, and at some point in time, that is going to start to fall off. They've got Austin Wells, Judge, Bellinger, Goldschmidt, Chisholm Jr., Volpe, Dominguez, Rice, Cabrera. So to me, that's a pretty, it's okay. It's okay offensively, but it's okay offensively with Judge being Aaron Judge. So if he takes even a half step back, it becomes an average offense to me very, very quickly, and that's basically what I'm betting this prediction on. And you know what? Obviously, I could look terrible saying that because Judge could go off for 65 home runs and win an MVP, but that's just my take coming into this year. It's a bit of a bold take, I suppose. The pitching side is what concerns me, though, with the Yankees. Carlos Rodon, Fried, Stroman, Warren, Carrasco. That is not what the Yankees had pictured when they let Nestor Cortez go in the trade for Devin Williams. And by all means, that was a fantastic get for them. But I think they were banking on having, Garrett Cole, obviously. And if I scroll down to some of their injuries, they've got Garrett Cole out for Tommy John. He will miss the entire year. That is a huge blow. Luis Gil, strained lat. Lat strain doesn't sound terrible, but that can really hinder pitchers, and it can be a recurring injury as well. And then they have Clark Schmidt out with shoulder fatigue, so who knows what that's going to look like. He was being leaned on as a real starter after they moved on from, who was it that they traded there? They let go of King in the trade to the Padres, and then they let go of... Clay Holmes to the Mets in free agency. So I think they really were banking on Luis Gil, Clark Schmidt, Garrett Cole, those guys to really step up and fill the rotation over the last couple of years. And having three of them out with injuries and one being for the season is just not what you want to be dealing with right now. And I think that's ultimately going to wear them down. And I don't know that Steinbrenner and Cashman are going to want to push all in at the deadline if they are sitting at, say, third or fourth in the division. It might be a year to kind of reload for them if some of these injuries have the impact on them that I think it might have in the first half. And that's really what it's going to come down to, is the timing of these injuries. And I think that the Yankees are going to fall behind early on. And like I say, I just don't know if they're going to be aggressive enough with the trade market and everything to try and make up that gap later on versus pushing it off till, next year. But it could go either way. I have a hard time putting the Yankees in fourth, but that's just my gut feeling right now. Which leaves us to our fifth place team in the AL East, and that is the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are largely, they're bet against every single year, and they always seem to be that underdog that somehow rallies and comes out on top. They're always a very competitive team. And like I mentioned off the top, I don't see any of these teams really getting thrashed in this division. I think it's going to be a very, very tight race. But their injury concerns are just nonstop. And they may only have Shane McClanahan out right now, but that triceps discomfort, who knows what that's going to turn into. And it's definitely not a good sign for him to be having injuries already in spring training, just given his injury history. I think he's already had 2 Tommy John surgeries, but at least one. And he's a true ace. But if he's not there, that is just a massive blow to them. And even if he's just being hindered by these small injuries where he's just not able to string together a healthy season, that's really going to wreak havoc on them. And I think playing in Steinbrenner Field, obviously they're playing in a minor league park, some of their offensive numbers are going to blow up and they're going to look fantastic. So a guy like Junior Caminero could probably win Rookie of the Year this year. He's super talented and could win it anyways. But I think the way that their offense is going to play up in numbers, I think that really makes him a strong favorite in my eyes. Brandon Lau is another guy who could put up massive numbers down there. They got Yandy Diaz, Josh Lowe, Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero, Aranda, Danny Jansen, Morel, Walls, and DeLuca. So it's a competitive lineup for sure. It's definitely not a bad lineup. I like Aranda a little bit actually. I like Caminero. Lau is fantastic. Yandy Diaz has his ups, has his downs, but he's a very good overall first baseman, and he's a very good hitter too for average and provides a little bit of power. So their offense is definitely steady. And then the pitching on the flip side of that is probably going to look worse than it actually is, where you have Papilla, Bradley, Rasmussen, Baz, and Zach Littell. So it's not the greatest. It's a lot of injuries in the recent past. So I don't know how any of these guys are going to recover. And that's a main question of mine. Is just how often have these guys stayed healthy, and why do we think that this year is going to be different? So I think that they're going to be dealing with some rust, some injuries, and when we're coming down to just a matter of a few games over the course of the year, I think the McClanahan injury and whatever other injuries creep up with them. Again, I can't bet on them staying healthy at this point because they've had so many injuries the last couple of years. Along with their bullpen being some nice big arms, I like a lot of the arm talent. I just don't see enough there. And I think playing in the minor league park is going to inflate their numbers, just like it does for their offense. I think that their pitching is going to take a hit too because of the added home runs and just overall run generation in that park. Also, Ha-Seong Kim, I'm not actually sure about his injury status. I know he had shoulder surgery, but I don't know when he's projected back. He's a real wild card for them as well because he's a great middle infielder or just infielder in general. And so how's he going to look coming off shoulder surgery? That's a big question mark as well. So there's definitely upside, like there are with all these teams, but somebody's got to come in fifth. And for me, just the injury history, the losing that home field advantage that they always had in the Dome in Tampa, and the fact that they're going to be, even their home games are going to kind of feel like away games. I just think that's a lot working against them in such a meat grinder like the AL East. And I think ultimately it's going to be too much to overcome. And, they're just going to be a few games out of it and not buyers at the deadline. If anything, they might sell off a couple of pieces. So yeah, that's my take on it. It's tough to say. It's a tight division. It's a competitive division. It's going to be some really good baseball. And I think that, coming up to the deadline is really where the team that is willing to push all in is going to ultimately come out on top in my eyes. So let me know what you guys think below in the comments, all right? I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. Am I out to lunch? Where do you differ from me? Are the Blue Jays going to come in dead last? Are they going to come in first? Let me know. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.